All right, it looks like we're live. Good evening. I'm Coach B. We're streaming live tonight to talk about Clove as a fundamental investment and also as a short squeeze play. This is the second roundtable. Hopefully, there'll be more to come. The mods of the Clove subreddit put this together and also put together some topics that they want us to discuss. And then we also got some questions off the Clove subreddit. So bear with us. We're also waiting on a couple other people. If you're out there watching Dutch or Target short sellers, just hit me up and we'll join you in. As for introductions, I'll start. And I know I went over this last time in the last one. But for anyone that's maybe new in here, I'm a high school football coach and a teacher. Been investing for about 10 years, 5 or so trading stocks and options, basically. And I just started live streaming about a little over a month ago, and I'm going every morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And that's on the West Coast. So basically a half hour before market opens, and we covering Clove and some of the other stocks that I'm into, but mostly Clove. Next up, so Al, maybe give us a little bit of summary about yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. You guys have seen me on Twitter and YouTube, I guess, and Reddit. Basically, just got on social media because of Clove. Everything I've ever done before this, as I said numerous times, it's been a lot safer. Hasn't been definitely not a target like it's been, and gotten all the coverage it's gone. And I've been really just kind of secluded in my office, just doing what I do. And now here we are in public, and I'm glad to share what I know and what I see, and move this thing forward.
Absolutely. All right, Tarheel.
What's up, Clove fam? It's good to see everybody. We'll be taking a look at the chat too if anybody wants to ask any other questions. So, but yeah, it's your boy, the Wolf of Clove Street, and just keeping it real.
Yeah, with his Clover, right? You see his Clover?
Yeah, I did. That was good. I hope it was meant for us, but if it wasn't,
good
who cares? But yeah, I like a good whiskey, My Little Ponies, and I like playing golf, and I love my Clove fam. So yeah, so I think we got a little announcement for everybody too, and there's no better time than now just to go ahead and drop it. So
just to interrupt you, Tarheel, just to interrupt you for a sec. Let's check the comments, make sure all our sound is good.
Oh yeah, that's
I don't see anybody complaining yet, so
cool.
It's usually me, but yeah. So all right, everybody, we have a really, really big announcement to make, and here goes. We've been working behind the scenes. Everybody, again, I know I always shout out the mods, but these guys have been doing tremendous work behind the scenes, and I think everybody's come to the conclusion that we are going to officially announce right here, right now, that we are opening a Clove official Discord, and it's going to be open to everybody. And I'm about to send out a tweet right now with the link in it. So everybody, if you want to go retweet that, if you want to go ahead and log into the open link, to the open invite, you should have it. Bam. There it is.
All right. I just I'm going to throw it in the chat too, for anyone who's maybe not on Twitter. And also, I just put it in the description of this video. So again, anybody, I just right now, it should be in there at least. So absolutely exciting news. And this is official for the Clove subreddit. So pretty cool stuff. All right. And again, if you got, this is all about community building, right? So any of you that are on Twitter, and I'm going to actually get on there right now and check it out.
So I just saw a comment that said, "What is a Discord?" That's probably good. we tell people what that is. So Discord is just a chat room basically, but obviously it just allows everybody with a common interest to get in there, and it's a very fluid way to chat, and it's another vehicle that we all have just to get together, and it's just a streamlined way just to be able to talk to everybody. And in my opinion, I know I've been begging for this. I know a lot of people have, but I always preach. I was a part of the AMC movement from just about the beginning, and I got to see how we mobilized and how we helped each other out. And Discord was a huge part of that. So, the mods have done a tremendous job with our Clove, and they're just they've decided to step it up, and yeah.
Cool. So I just went on while you were talking and retweeted it. Looks like there's only 2 retweets. We got anyone who's on here right now. There's 104 of us on here. Go check out Tarheel. His Twitter account is also in the description of this video as well, along with myself, with Al Trades, and also Dutch and Target short sellers who aren't with us right now. But I think it's important to really help build this community.
Right now, actually, I'm gonna message Target right now.
It's starting to go.
There we go. And then, whenever we talked about this at the last roundtable, but building community. One thing I mentioned was getting on and actually going and liking videos and subscribing to anyone who's covering Clove, and because it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Well, the same thing can be said with social media. So everyone goes on there right now and retweets this message about the Clove Discord. It'll help bring attention to the Clove subreddit. It'll help bring attention to the Discord itself, and hopefully it'll help us grow this community.
Yep.
And I see in the chat, how can I ask Coach a question? Go ahead, ask away.
Just make sure it's about options.
Yeah. All right. So and someone said I can't see the link. It should be in the video description, right at the very top.
Hey, blah blah. If you're listening, you wanna go make that a Reddit post real quick, or Trafalmadorian.
Okay, Robertson, Sacktown. I'm in California as well. That's good. That's nice to see. We got some people on the West Coast. All right, so moving on. So like I said, the mods for the Clove subreddit put together some topics that they wanted us to discuss and go over, and so we're going to kind of run through those, and then we'll get to some of the questions that came up on the Clove subreddit that they wanted us to kind of address here today, that came from you guys or anybody else that were kind of got the most upvotes and that sort of thing. So the first topic is the share lockup expiration and all the FUD that kind of went along with it, which we were expecting to kind of see this week. But just as a topic, to kind of kickstart this, Tarheel, you want to maybe start this one off?
Yeah. Obviously I made a 48-minute video, so if you guys want to go watch it, it's called Kraken, and I'm not just, it bears mentioning because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, and just to be completely honest, not too much has changed since that, in my opinion. It was kind of a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned, because the bulk of it is that, there's a couple main groups of shares, actually 3 that are owned, and those are the number of shares owned by Vivek Garipalli, which is around 83 million, and then there's another tranche of 83 million shares that are owned by Vivek Garipalli. And then before Friday, we knew that Green Oaks Capital owned about 96 million, which they obviously have taken about, I think, 21 million of those and went ahead and converted those to Class A. I think I was going to talk about that here in a little bit. But the main reason I bring up those large tranches is because those are, in my opinion, the tranches of shares, other than those 21 million now, we know, that are probably never going to be converted because of voting power. Class B shares have 10 times the number of votes than Class A shares do, though. So it's very important that they keep those large tranches Class B, unless in theory they were going to convert everything to Class A, which does not happen until legally via the S1 prospectus until January of 2031. So I don't personally see any reason that those entities are going to give up. Vivek's not giving up his voting power. There's a lot of bad things that could happen if he decided to do that. Somebody could come in, swoop in a bunch of Class A shares. Potentially Green Oaks could decide they loved Clover Assistant and turn it into the next Skynet, something like that. But the other thing is, as far as the insiders go, so we have those three main tranches right there, which we shouldn't be worried about. Even if all the insiders decide they were going to sell tomorrow, it still wouldn't matter, because you take somebody like Chelsea Clinton, and Chelsea Clinton was given 724,000 shares. So she's one of the major shareholders as far as the insiders go. But even if you add all the insiders up, there's not that much more distributed amongst all of them. So, and most of them, including Vivek and Andrew, I won't beat this too hard or go too micro on this, but most of these guys don't even start vesting until January 7th, 2022, and it's only 20%. So we only really have to worry about 20% of the insider shares, other than Vivek and Green Oaks. So in my opinion, again, it's a big nothing burger. So Al, you wanna take it?
With respect to what? With respect to I'm just looking at the
chat.
new SEC file. Yeah, with the new SEC filing here. No, I saw the chat there. Yeah, people telling me to smile. Someone asked if I'm Armenian. No, I'm not from Armenia.
Yeah,
Argentina.
I think just in terms of the SEC filing that came out
I got
this
it
week,
up right in front of me.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, no, I got it right in front of me here, and this is the most recent one. The one this is the prospective supplement that came up after the S4 filing by Green Oaks, and it's the one I had talked about there. And of course, you see the 83 million shares, and you see all the shares still there. Chamath still has his 35.5 million, although now it's categorized differently. And interestingly enough, here you can see that now Neil Mehta and affiliated entities, obviously he's the representative on Green Oaks there. He is the 74 million are listed under him, but it's also listed under Green Oaks Capital and the affiliate entities, the 74 million. And when you see Green Oaks total Class A common stock that's registered for sale now, it's still the entire 96 million, which is odd because this is the updated one. So I don't know why they're still in control of that there. With that said, it's only the 21 million that was transferred out, the pro rata in kind. Obviously, that means that was distributed in proportion evenly to their investors that wanted it back, or that they were given it to, which obviously there's been communication there. It's been my just on analysis on volume that came through, as well as what the overall strategy would be, is that unless a little bit was sold for either for tax purposes or because maybe one of the many funds needed money for some reason, unless that was the case, I don't think that any of the volume that we saw last week was from
that being in kind. Al, that being in kind, what did you attribute that to? That verbiage in the prospectus?
Well, no, that's just common verbiage there, because it says pro rata too, right? So pro rata means in proportion. Okay, right. And that comes from the Latin. So when you put them together, that means that from the entities that, or from the investors that they take it back, it was a proportionate amount given to it. So it's not like one entity said, here, give me all my investment back or this or that, which is what leads me to believe that this was distributed to them to take advantage of certain situations which may arise. Because if they were going to be sold, if there was going to be any way to for them to dispose of them and get the money to the funds because they wanted it, there was other ways to do that. They didn't have to give it to them to.
So everything I saw, every time I looked up in kind and look at in kind distributions with any companies in this regard, everything that pulled up was for tax purposes.
Well, that's because
that specific verbiage was always attributed to tax reasons for taxes. Did you see any of that?
Well, they could. Well, no, I know what you mean there, but at the end of the day, that's probably what you saw is probably what the majority of those distributions are used for. But pro rata in kind it could have literally been the entire portfolio if they wanted. You know what I mean? It's not, that doesn't mean that it's just a little bit of the amount.
I know that, let me bring this up again. I know that we're going to, guys, everyone, pay careful attention, okay? If you don't take anything else from this, just listen to this, okay? We are going to see sales come. Because what happens is, if I'm given 200,000 warrants, okay, or let's say I'm given 200,000 options to purchase, well, I get to exercise those at whatever price I deem, and then I can sell those later. But it's called an 83B tax strategy. So it behooves me to go ahead and exercise at the lowest price possible to save on taxes later, because when those shares vest, taxes are due. Uncle Sam's coming to collect. Or when you sell, Uncle Sam's coming to collect. So a lot of these guys, they exercise at a lower price, and then they just sit on their shares. And actually, a lot of companies mandate sales that are there to cover taxes. So if you see sales,
well, no, that makes sense. And I remember you mentioned that too on your stream with WSB Degenerate, right? Like, why would these guys pull out money from their bank to be dealing with that stuff? Right. So in that sense, it absolutely makes sense. But when you're looking at that, I mean, if we see a sale of any kind, when I say, oh, they're not selling a single share, this, that, if we see a sale that's 1 or 2% of what they're holding, then I don't think that can be attributed to anything. Do you know what I mean? So even though I said I don't think that a single share.
Let's just be real for a minute. I mean, them converting 21 million shares, they're probably at some point, if and when we squeeze, let me say when we squeeze, I'm sure they're gonna unload some shares. And on that matter, I don't want to bring up. I definitely, obviously, it's important to talk about the bear case and to set realistic expectations. But there is a chance that Chamath as well might might sell some of those warrants. Or
I don't see that. You know why? Especially not him, because he is the one guy, him and Vivek, but he does not need the money. I think he's not getting rid of this.
Why do you think he got rid of Virgin Galactic then? 100%.
Because he got rid of Virgin Galactic a year and a half after they took them public, and when they did, was right around the time, if you notice, before they started doing the test flights, and then obviously congrats to Space Today with Richard Branson flying. That was awesome. But I think he sold. He had his climate change initiatives that he wanted to invest. If I'm not mistaken, it was $260 million he got for his shares, and he sold them between. I looked it up. He sold them all between $30 and $37. It's sitting at around 50 right now, and tomorrow it's probably opening at like 60 or 70. And who knows where it's going after today's flight?
So
right? You don't think so? You don't think so, Coach?
No, I absolutely think so, and I'm only smiling because anyone who's been watching my stream knows I had been talking about how I think Virgin Galactic is gonna, I wanted to buy some options and jump in on that. Now I don't want to derail this whole thing about Clove, but I never ended up buying it. I was camping. I wasn't getting cell service, and I couldn't get any. But I
ended up not buying it. I ended up not buying it just because I'm so happy it went through and I'm doing well on my other investments. But it was one of those things that it went well today, so we're going huge. If that thing didn't come back down, or if it didn't come back down,
I wouldn't be shocked if that thing doesn't, blow up and open up at $70 tomorrow. But just to keep, to somewhat.
But anyway, just to get back to that. So we were talking about why he would sell it. He sold Space a year and a half after they IPO'd, and he sold it when it was at $30, and that one I believe that he bought Clover at 10 for his part there. I believe that one he bought at 20, if I'm not mistaken. And he already had his profit on there, and it could have gone to zero. You know what I mean?
But he could do the same thing here. And if you watched his last all-in-one podcast, he said
about the distribution.
He's talking about IRR with GPs and LPs, and he was like, "Get your money, get out, go build another company." Go use that money to go build another company.
So I'm gonna right now. Target Short Sellers is trying to join in. Oh, I just lost him. I was gonna, if he calls back in, if you're watching right now, I'll join you back in. He was just trying to join the stream.
I don't think he needs the money, and I think he thinks this is easily, forget 100 that he said it's going to when he said it's a 10 bagger. I think it's all opinion, man. But when you don't need the money, and you
go watch that all-in-one podcast, because he specifically said there's no reason.
Dutch got so much older.
So
this is Dutch in 2050.
So joining right now is Michael from Target Short Sellers. He's actually, you know what? I'm gonna take this time real quick to just bring this up. So this is actually kind of cool. So I'm in California. I'm on the West Coast. Tarheel's in North Carolina. He's on the East Coast. Al's actually in Canada right now, and Target Short Sellers. I put his information in the YouTube description as well. But he's coming to us from Belgium right now. Correct?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Welcome.
Oui, mon ami.
Hi, folks. I'm just back at home because I'm living in a city crowded by Italian. There was a big feast in the street.
Viva Italy!
Yeah, Italy just beat England, right? In the
Yeah,
Totally,
Forza
totally fair
Italia.
game. Yeah.
Ole, ole,
No,
ole.
I'm an Italian guy living in Belgium.
Oh, you're Italian. Congrats, my friend.
Yeah, for origin, let's say.
All right, so where we were at, and I'll just kind of to wrap this one up, and we'll keep moving. But I mean, I think the important thing, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, nobody has sold any shares. We did see some SEC filings that Green Oaks was converting some from Class B to Class A, and
That's
there was a question that came up, and I'm gonna put this. What's the difference between Class B and Class A? So Class B shares give them more voting rights, is my understanding, but they can't be sold at the market. So by converting to Class A,
but they can be converted and sold right away.
Yeah.
So let's just
and Green Oaks, who's a major holder of CLOV Class B shares, converted 21 million of their shares, which is less than, I think, 20%, 25% of their entire holdings. 22% of their entire holdings. They converted them, but they have not sold them yet. And I think Tarheel's and probably Al is spot on in his speculation that they're getting ready so that if this thing does squeeze, they can come in and and dump some of the shares, and make some money. You know what I mean? And probably buy back in, but they haven't sold any yet. And I don't think any have been sold yet, right? No big institutions have actually sold anything. The only thing we've saw so far is just
we won't know on the 13 Fs that come out by August 15th is when we'll have the full list of what was sold by June 30th. So anything that's been sold now wouldn't even be until 45 days after the next quarter is over. So we're talking September, so October 15th.
Right, but that run up,
November 15th, sorry, November.
So that run up to 28, I mean, that wasn't retail led, that was institutional led. So
that was, honestly, and there's really no way to know this, but I think a part of that, we talk about the HFTs, the high frequency trades, and we talk about all the algos and about tipping that. A portion of that could have been tipping the scales on the algo, and it just sent it until something was taken under control. Because on 700 million, okay, and I don't know how long people have been following Clove, but if you've been following Clove, we literally, you can look at it, we've had days of 4 million, 6 million, 5 million, 8 million.
It could have been, but I can't find anywhere in history where retail has ever, other than even...
Well, it wasn't retail. I never said it was retail. The HFTs are not retail. The HFTs are the institutions.
Right.
Yeah, I think what Al's saying is kind of what I think too is the algorithms took over, and and a lot of that I think had to do with the option chain on that one too. I mean,
I think that's but I'm just saying, I think that.
So the way the option chain works with the gamma squeezes is basically when you have a huge number of open interest compared to puts, these algorithms will start hedging on behalf of the people who sold the naked calls, and it does have just as negative of effect on the downside. So once it gets pushed, and it could have very well been institutions, as Tarheel's saying, that push the price into that kind of gamma squeeze range, but from there the algorithms take over. And they just have to keep buying to hedging, and it keeps pushing it back. Yeah, the market, and it keeps pushing it higher, higher. And once we get to a certain price, though, and people start taking profits, now it has the reverse effect. Now the algorithms get to sell to unhedge, So I think it was a combination of both.
It wouldn't surprise me if Green Oak steps in and buys up retail shares in order to pump the price to hell and back, and we see 100, and then they release some. I don't think they just converted 21 million shares to take $10 per share profit. I think we might see.
Well, don't forget that they're no longer in control of those 21 million shares.
Well,
those 21 million shares have been distributed to their investors, who either are going to sell for this or that, but they can do what they want and they don't have to file an S4. That's why the people that are spreading the FUD and this and that are saying, oh, well, they could have dumped this, that. But don't forget that we had those shares borrowed last week or the week before that got dumped.
That's a great point. That's a great point. But just to further that, I mean, don't tell me they don't all know what they're all doing,
I said that in my last video. I said that in my last video as well, that obviously there's been communication and they're advising for them, right? So Green Oaks is telling them,
exactly.
I do think some of them are probably going to sell at 30 or 40 because for them that's a crazy, crazy ROI. But I don't know. We'll see. If they can
see.
push it up and then we can take it the rest of the way.
I think there's going to be a run because of it.
Well, no, there definitely will be. We just don't know when or how big or how long it'll last. There definitely will be. There has to be.
Yep.
As target short sellers or Michael there was talking before, we're just compressing and compressing, but there's no getting out of this. The numbers do not add up, my friends.
Yeah, Michael, you want to throw anything on? You want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, I've made some DD about the naked short selling, and what I understand is that when the volume, the buying pressure, the volume going down, you have all these naked phantom share running around, and that just push the price. You know, that's what's going on right now. I mean, 10, 9, because there is a lot of phantom share running around. That's
right.
We're not trading the float. We're trading maybe 200 million share, not 120.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
No, that absolutely. I mean, and that's and especially when you see that much volume, right? Like for instance, just not but to go back to what we were saying that day that Albert mentioned, 700 million in volume. We were trading at like almost 6 times the float. You know, that's just off the top of my head. I mean, that's ridiculous for any
out
stock.
of nowhere. In the days leading up to that, some days we were at 5 or 8 million, like out of nowhere.
But to be trading at that type of level, you know, 6 times the float, even like AMC, I think at its peak on its biggest day might have traded double the float, you know, and not to compare the two, but just so that people watching understand, you know, if you have, you know, 100 million float, you shouldn't be trading 600 million shares in one day. That's just, you know, and we were trading above 700 million that day. So that was insane.
We have a question from the chat from Tienbo Ho. You probably can't find it, but it says, how big is the real short interest?
Well, the real answer is nobody knows for sure. That's the real answer. But how big is it at least? From the numbers, 30 to 40%. If you look right through those, minimum 50, 60%. And if you look past that and see what could be there with either the naked calls or the naked shorting, then, or obviously the naked shorting through naked calls as well, then that's where, I don't know. There's times where I've done some math on it and I could easily see it approaching 200%. And this was about a month or two ago. If you realize there was, or if you look at the short interest data, I don't have it right in front of me this second, but it did drop off for a little bit before picking up huge last week.
So Al, I got a question for you. Just to play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, I do believe there's manipulation. Data is falsified, not reported to the exchanges correctly. That's super easy to do. But the FTDs, I don't believe that data can be falsified to the clearinghouses, and we're only. Did you see the
increase in FTDs from this from the last 2-week period that was reported to the even 1, 2, or 3 before that? It's almost quadrupled.
What are we saying?
You can pull that up on FinTel. You can pull that up on FinTel.
We're at 486,246 FTDs. And for those
of you
guys
who the 1 day, that was for the 1 day.
No, that's an aggregate number. Those numbers aren't added together. So the most recent number is the total.
Is the biggest one there? Hold on, wait, let me have it in front of me.
Yeah.
No,
so it can't be an aggregate because there's some of them that are over 1 million.
I promise.
There's some
the way that they report those numbers out, the way that those FTD numbers are reported out, it's what the number you see daily is the total amount of FTDs.
Correct.
Now they do have ways, and I think Michael might be able to even add to this just from looking at his channel and some of his content. But I think with those FTDs, they're able to kick the can down the road. So if one day it shows that there's 1 million in FTDs, and the next day it shows up as 200,000, it doesn't necessarily mean that they covered 800,000 that day.
Right.
They have methods in which they could push it out another 21 days, I believe. Michael, could you jump in on that one?
I guess there's some of them that maybe they ended up delivering.
Before I forget, I want to ask you a question that I was asking to myself. The day we have 732 million share traded around the 8th of June, if I remember well, I've looked about what happened that day and the day after with the short, and what I have seen is that the day we run at $22, they short like crazy that day. And the day after, they cover the short and bring to 28. But do you think we can have 1 billion share traded in 2-3 days with 120 million share in the float? I mean, I don't think that's possible.
Well, no, that's where the HFTs came in. They had to trade it that many times.
Yeah. No, and
Well,
that, so for anyone watching who maybe is this is somewhat of a new, basically when this naked short selling takes place, what they're doing is they're creating extra shares in the market. So if there should only be 150 million shares out there that are being traded, if you have an extra 100 million being naked shorted, that means they're not actually borrowing shares that exist. They're kind of creating these shares out of thin air and selling them into the market. We buy them or someone else buys them, and now you have essentially a float of 250 million when the real float is only 150 million. So it's creating this extra volume and extra shares that don't exist. It puts them in a real predicament when they end up having to cover, because now there's not going to be enough shares out there for them to buy back. But that's what we're talking about with this naked shorting and how you'll see that extra volume.
No, I get that. My argument to that would be, if they were really doing that, they'd be in a deeper hole than any of us or anybody has even imagined.
Well, okay.
And I think we think they're in a deep hole, but I don't think that they're.
I agree, but it's keep in mind too, this is a lot of market maker manipulation, not just hedge funds, because and market makers get T plus 35. So just so you guys know, these are going to show up in terms of failures to deliver, and that's why I was kind of providing the 486,000 number, because if, in theory, if there's 100 million naked shorts and they don't actually ever go find those shares, those should in theory turn into FTDs. But the hedge funds, and Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, they have 21 days to locate those shares and get the fund settled and turn those in, and the market makers have 35 days.
Yeah, so after...
Could you imagine if at one point it showed 100 million FTDs and the float's 130 or 112? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that's way too crazy. That's way too out there.
No, well, the number that I was given was just as an example to explain how it works. I wasn't saying that there was actually 100 million naked shorts out there.
No, I get that. But for there to be that many duplicates and for it to get that, then this would literally be close to $3,000 before we started
But
selling.
a lot of people.
That's why I'm saying no way.
Yeah. But a lot of people actually, if you don't understand what a failure to deliver is, you might think that's actually possible. But the market makers absolutely could go and, if they run out of liquidity, they could absolutely go and throw 30 million shares into the market, only to, ladder us or whatever, consolidate us or whatever you want to call it, and just go stop us out and pick those millions of shares up. And they have 35 days to do it before it ever shows up. So might not be 100, but it could be 40.
Michael, I got to say, your screen looks 10 times better right now, too. You were all blurry for a while. You came in nice and clear now. Nice and clear. You know what, too, before... Go ahead.
But I want to say something. When you look up about the story of AMC, running from $6 to 72, AMC have a less good business model of Clove, and there was not the amount of short that we have in CLOV. So I was asking to myself why we cannot do the same kind of run that AMC have done.
No,
why not?
And what in terms of that, because I agree, I think that it's possible. The big difference that I see, and I could be wrong, is just the pure, AMC's got a lot of buyers. They got a huge community behind it. And I think that's one of the things that, and this isn't, your Wall Street bets, pump and dump type people, that are coming in for a one day buy. These are people that were in it for the squeeze and came in and they bought and they held, and I think that the holding doesn't.
I'm gonna jump off that, because this is a really important point. I'm telling you, I was in that community for months, and a lot of it feels like how it feels with us, like it feels like I couldn't imagine leaving you guys and leaving this community, right? It feels like a Clove fam. It really does. And the AMC, they feel the exact same way. I'm telling you, there's just more of them. And that's why I've been harping on it and trying to shove it down everybody's throat, that we just need to build this community. And we might pull some stragglers from GameStop, AMC, other the meme stocks, but if we just continue what we're doing, we can grow.
Real quick, I'm going to put Peter's question up here on the screen,
good.
just so because he had asked. He said, "How come you guys?" I didn't see your question earlier, but maybe if anyone, and then I'll take it off the screen because I'm blocking everyone's faces right now. Can any of you please take a look at Hidden Guru's post? Have your take on it. I'm not saying which is right or wrong, but we need to not only a voice of reason, but also a devil advocate. I'm not familiar with Hidden Guru's post, so I'm not.
Me neither.
I don't even know who Hidden Guru is.
Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. I'm not a.
Well, maybe you know what? If you want to try to pull it up, and we'll continue the conversation
on Reddit, I'm assuming, right?
And we'll jump back to it.
And we definitely trust this. We play devil's advocate as much as the community does. You know, Al and I have actually been talking offline.
That guru part was spelled weird. How was that guru part spelled? I think I got him here.
Gooru.
Yeah. Let's see.
So while Al's pulling that up, the next thing that we had to kind of as a topic on here, but I kind of like where this conversation is going.
Hey, Joshua has one. You want to throw it up?
I don't see anything he's done here on Clove. I'm gonna have to look. Oh, there we go. Clove.
All right.
Joshua says, I have a question. Every time they cover a share, that technically counts for 2. So it's kind of like returning and buying at the same time. Or am I seeing this wrong? Does anyone want to cover that one? So,
sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Coach. No, you go ahead, Coach. You got it.
Well, I guess so. It starts with borrowing the share first, right? So when you want to short sell, you need to borrow the shares from somewhere, from somebody, and then you sell them into the market. You know, so that would create, in theory, you know, a duplicate of the share. You have the person who lent it out, and then the person that they actually it shouldn't create duplicate shares. It's the short. In my understanding of it, it's the naked shorting that would create the duplicate. Because when you're borrowing it, like let's say I go borrow, 10,000 shares from Tarheel, and then I go short them into the market and sell them. Now you bought those shares from me. Let's say Al buys those 10,000 from me that I shorted. Right. There's still the same shares out there. Essentially, I need to. Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I'm just looking at Hidden Gurus here. You're talking about.
Well, let's go through this. Let's talk about this before we go back through that.
Yeah. So essentially now I owe those shares back to Tarheel. He lent them to me. I sold the 10,000 to Al. But now when it's time for me to cover, I just have to buy 10,000 shares from anybody. It could be, Michael that's willing to sell his. It could be somebody else. So I'm just going to go into the market and buy 10,000 shares, however I can get them, and go return them to Tarheel. So to me, it wouldn't create any duplicates. It wouldn't add to the float, any of that. What does create the duplicates and the phantom shares is kind of what we're talking about with the naked shorting. And that's my interpretation of it.
So, Coach, what wouldn't it though? Because I mean, every time they're lent out and you don't buy to cover, right? Like if you borrowed 10,000 shares from me and sold them, somebody had to buy those, right?
So let's just say Al bought them.
Right. But those could have been those could be lended by Al's broker out at that point because he's long, right? And on that token, when you owned them, they could have been lended out too, right?
That would get us into the naked shorting type deal, because really, and that's a problem with the entire market right now. I mean, I think I've heard, people bring up, and I think it's a great idea, like using blockchain technology and minting all shares so that they can be tracked, so that you don't get into that confusing process, so that it should be as simple as, no, those are Tarheel shares that I borrowed,
Well, they can be tracked. I was listening to Dr. Suzanne Trimbuth, and she was talking about this exact same thing. And she said if Ryan Cohen and GameStop wanted to track those shares down and get with the clearing institutions, they absolutely could call for that. But what usually ends up happening is, let's say they have a vote on something and it goes the way they want, then they just don't even ask questions as long as it goes the way they want. It's when they take a vote and something goes not according to plan, not the way they want it, is when they go and try to actually find those shares. But she said they have every
that seems right about that financial system.
Yeah,
like, well, as long as they give them what they want, they're not going to question it. Because if Ryan Cohen was so sure that there was that many naked shorts, which is obviously the theory there, then why not expose it?
But
right?
blockchain would be way better in theory. Yes, absolutely. Because how oftentimes is it ever done in practice? Never.
Yeah.
So coach is 100% right.
All right, so let's get back to Peter's question real quick. So Al, you said you pulled up the post from the Guru
Well, this
guy.
one here, yeah, it's completely based on a reverse gamma squeeze. So do you want to pull it up and look at it?
Is it? Oh, so it's saying like when the share price goes down, that the kind of the
Well,
shares
saying that
will.
basically the gamma squeeze is already happening. We're in it. It's going in the wrong direction. Disclosure: he has short iron condors, and will consider exiting if the resistance at 10 is insufficient and continues to drop. But I
So
don't
in
know.
terms of being in a reverse gamma squeeze, so basically the way a gamma squeeze, I don't necessarily need to look at the post, but I could kind of speak to the
Yep.
option side of it and how it works. So basically, the way a gamma squeeze works, and we kind of covered that a little bit earlier, was, when if the calls that like greatly enormously outweigh the puts at a specific strike price, and then it continue to all the way up. Once the price reaches a certain level and the algorithms start hedging, they have to start buying, right? To get, and then to stay delta neutral. So as these algorithms for these market makers or people who sold the naked calls, they start buying these shares, it's driving the price higher. And as it drives the price higher, it continues to pass up new strikes on the option chain, and that the algorithm buying just keeps continuing. Well, to get to what that post is about is basically the exact opposite, right? So if the puts outweigh the calls tremendously, then I think what he's saying is that, as the price continues to drive lower, these market makers can continue to unhedge. But now, and this could be, I could be entirely wrong on this. I'm learning every day too. But my understanding of this is this: if the puts are already outweighing the calls, they don't have shares that they're necessarily unhedging. They only have them when the calls outweigh the puts, if that makes sense. They want to stay delta neutral. So a market maker, and I
Yeah.
could be wrong, and if I am, one of you guys jump in and stop me. But I guess what I'm saying is, if let's just say at the $12 strike, there's 20,000 calls and 10,000 puts. Once that becomes in the money and the delta reaches 100, that's basically 1 million shares that the market maker wants to hold on to stay delta neutral. But now, as the stock price falls below 12, he doesn't need those million shares anymore, so he could just let them go. And so I don't think that there's as much of a resistance once we get into like these lower numbers. That's my understanding. If anyone else wants to clarify or jump in,
I'm actually just reading a bit through the post right now as you were talking. I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything you said there, but I'm just reading through here.
So yeah, so that was actually, Coach, that was my question. I was going to ask you. That's how I understand it to be too. That's what kind of makes common sense to me. I can't say for certain, but I've never seen I never saw anything about a reverse gamma squeeze in any stock I've ever been a part of.
well, definitely you will have like the unhedging, right? So like when
Unhedging,
we hit 22 back on June 8th, as the stock
Right.
price starts falling, the same
But
algorithms that we're buying are going to be able to start
exactly.
selling now.
But unhedging is a little different than saying reverse gamma squeeze, right? Because
Yeah.
that would be like negative hedging, which I don't know.
Because I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I have the July 16th option chain pulled up right now, and like, the 8,000 or the $8 strike has 2,000. We'll just call it 2,000 open interest on calls and 10,000 on puts. So the delta right now on this, I don't even have the delta up right now on this. I'm looking at barchart.com. I didn't want to open up my Webull app. But, let's just say, I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's say the delta on this is 1.0. The market maker doesn't own any of these shares at all. They don't have to, because they've already sold 10,000 puts. So there's nothing for them to hedge at all. They're already, you know what I mean? So it isn't until they've already hedged shares and they have some shares that they're sitting on. Now, when it drops below, they can start to unhedge. I guess I don't know if that's even a word, but
Right.
that's the way I would describe it.
Yeah.
Michael, did you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was asking myself a question. I don't know if you have a reply to that. If I'm a company who short CLOV, and I'm preparing myself to cover, do I have any interest to buy a lot of call to make some money during the run-up when I cover? That will make sense.
So me and
I don't-
Tarheel kind of talked about
Yeah.
this a little bit, and I actually asked the same question because that's what I was thinking. Like, you know, if I was short huge on this, and it was like all of a sudden now I know that I have to go return these shares. And that's in their name. They're hedge funds, right? So they're going to hedge their positions either way. And if they're way
Right.
over, head over heels in short positions, why wouldn't they just buy calls and then let the thing explode up in the other direction, and make money
But
the
at
other
least we
way,
have-
or at least minimize their losses? And I still think that they might. But Tarheel brought up a great point on one of his streams. He was talking about it, and basically what he said was, and it makes sense that, let's say there's 1,000 different hedge funds or people who have big short positions in Clove,
Right.
and even though you might have to cover now, you might incur more losses if you go buy those calls and you start covering, and you're driving the price up, but the other 9,999 people that are short the stock are just going to keep hammering it down. Now you lost on your calls and you lost on your short position. So his speculation would be that they wouldn't do that, to make money going back the other way. I guess they would have to be colluding to kind of like all at the same time. Like, hey, we're all going to cover
Yeah.
tomorrow. This stock's going to
And
explode.
Not even that. I think, like I said in one of my last videos, that not only are we one catalyst or one big news story away from the tide shifting on the story and the support for Clove. If it turns out that something breakthrough comes, that very well could be in the next year or so, some breakthrough comes that actually does prove to be this huge advantage and whatnot, and then it starts getting all this ongoing support, and that could change it alone there. But yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
So Al, just so you guys know, I'm in that Google document. I'm talking to the mods. I'm looking for questions, so I might just interrupt it at some point. But Al, you want to take this?
Something I wanted to mention.
You were just talking about it. So one of the questions is, what catalyst is it that we are waiting for?
Oh, there's so many that could come.
There's a couple biggies
So
there.
No. But if you're talking about catalysts, there is we already know about the expansion and all this and that. As soon as that CMS approval goes through, that alone. Now we brought in this new chief growth officer that we just brought in. Watch when he makes his first announcement or his first big move. Right? Whether it's something to do with helping the 101 county expansion or maybe something even further than that, but wait for him to get settled in and do something. Because as we also mentioned, right, we were waiting for them to bring in these seasoned guys that have worked with public companies. This guy grew Uber Eats in the United States. I mean, that's no small task, right? So he's coming in, and one could argue that this is similar scale or whatnot. And
yeah, quite possibly. I think the counter argument to that is, is that going to bring the buying from institutions alone, do you think? Or do you think the Hindenburg report is just too...
Institutions already own so much. Institutions already own so much.
Yeah, but there's a lot of seasoned investors, whales, and on that note, a lot of more institutions that look at fundamentals of the company, free cash flow positive.
Well,
they're looking at valuations and they're looking at the Hindenburg report and having that hang over our heads. So while that is important,
I don't think anybody's looking at that Hindenburg report nowadays and being
man.
"Oh my God," maybe that was the case the day after. But and the only person who, other than somebody who's short in Clove or a Clove bear, would argue that when everything has been either disproven, debunked, or shown that it has no merit.
Coach, what do you think?
I'm over
Department
here.
of Justice.
What's that?
Department of Justice. You mean the risk factor that's shown in every single company in this industry that says they get regular litigation and regular Department of Justice.
I agree,
and SEC
but I love this.
That Department of Justice inquiry, the one that every single company in the industry gets.
Well, I think the big thing is with both of these inquiries, that are kind of looming over Clove right now, and we've talked about this before. I think they're priced in. I think that they're already.
And not even that, you guys. It's on this one, in my opinion. You got to step back. look at everything that's happening with Clover. Would all this be happening if there was something bad that was going to come from those?
No,
All
Al,
these
we agree
partnerships.
with
No,
brother. We
yeah,
agree with you.
I agree
We
100%.
agree.
I guess what I'm saying is if all of a sudden there was something negative that, which I don't think there's going to be, but if something negative came out of it and all of a sudden the DOJ came out and said, you know what, Clove, you messed up. Here's your $5 million fine or whatever it is. I don't think you're going to see the stock drop from that point because I think that news has already been priced into the stock. So what would end up happening is just it ending in general, whether it be, hey, there was nothing to see here, or here's your fine, move on. Either one is going to be a catalyst that sends the stock upwards because one, it'll show that it's going to show that it's over with now. You know, and
Right,
I
but
think
the fact that if the Hindenburg report goes away and the DOJ inquiry goes away, that will skyrocket up just means that it is indeed looming over our heads. That
Okay, and you know
alone-
what? Let me counter that from the other side. Okay, let's say our investigation's going on. He's right now under inquiry himself by the SEC, and he's also under official investigation by the CFA Institute for ethics review. So imagine if the news about him getting a CFA designation pulled or something comes before that. Right? Everyone that wants to base everything on this Hindenburg, watch that happen, man. And yeah,
All right,
Emily
well-
Evans, I'm not as familiar with her, although we obviously have some history there. But when it comes to Hindenburg, watch him get his CFA designation pulled. I've already posted documents on Twitter. He's already been sued for market manipulation and for short distort reports, and that one only ended because it was the same thing as the freaking try not to swear, sorry, the rating agencies in 2008, which when it came down to it, it was just our opinion. We didn't tell anyone what to do. So with that loophole still in the system, where you can literally be like, yo, you suck, you this, you that, blah, 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 don't buy this, but, and then, oh, that was just our opinion. That was
that's
just
the
our
same.
opinion.
It's the same thing you see on TV every day, though, too, right? With the
right. Well,
you know, these guys come out and then they say that they're. I mean, I forget the name of who it was, but you know, somebody was on CNBC one time and already had an open short position in a company, went in and you know downplayed it and said that you know they're shorted and this is why and all this kind of stuff to tank the stock down even more because by them putting it out there now everybody watching on TV ends up either selling or shorting, right? And then while the newscast was going on, they went in and opened up a large long position because they got in at a discount, you know, and then they wait to go drop that news. So they're just manipulating the market however they can and you know and that's exactly what Hindenburg's doing and a lot of these other people and they can have the platform to do it and say it in front of millions of people, but as soon as you get a bunch of Redditors together or people on you know YouTube or whatever other platform, then they want to make it into we're the ones manipulating the stock. So Michael, do you have something to say? You look like you were ready to jump in.
I was going to
Yeah,
say, he hasn't stopped talking.
yeah. Personally, I really like the two young guys. They just announced that they hire the guy from Uber and the guy from Palantine or Palantir. I don't remember the name. Another grow company, very related to government contract and all that. I think these two guys going to bring a kind of fresh air, a way of communicate that will bring new kind of buyers in the company. They will expose the company more like a technology company than a healthcare company. That's what I think.
Absolutely, and that was actually the next topic. I know we've been kind of all over the place, but I love it. I love the way this is going. But the two guys' names, so it was Prabdeep Singh is their new chief growth officer, and Justin Joseph as their chief strategy and development officer. And these are the two newest hires that they came up with. This I think it was Friday. Was it Friday or Thursday? The news came out, but not even a month ago. They also had some other, and I don't have the names in front of me, but they did was it a commercial? I always mess it up. It's like a chief marketing officer they hired, and so they've been making some great hires over the last couple months. But these two new ones, as you said, one was working at Palantir, the other one at Uber, and basically these guys came from growth companies, right? And they came over to Clove, which I think you know is not just a health insurance company. It's also a technology company, and it's a company that's trying to grow and expand and really be a disruptor in the health industry, the health insurance industry. So, absolutely, I think those are great points, and I think that alone could have or should have been a catalyst, in my opinion. But that's how you could tell that the stock is so manipulated. I mean, you get good news coming out, and the stock goes down.
Well,
Um,
it just reinforces the fact that, we have a proprietary technology with Clover Assistant. We have all the right people put in place. I read an article from Andrew Toy a little earlier today where he was essentially saying that, the IBM machine, what was it called? It was supposed to be like, it was supposed to tell you what was wrong with you when you went in. It was called like Big Blue or something. I can't remember, but it was a failure. And the Clover Assistant, it's not there to diagnose a patient. It's there to, when they started all these electronic healthcare records, 15 years ago or whatever it was, they're only for billing purposes. That is the only logistics that problem has been solved with electronic care. So it's not like you show up to your doctor these days and they have if you went to a specialist or you saw another primary care, that information is not always getting to the primary care physician. But what's on point is the billing. The billing's on point because that's what they've been preparing for the last 10 years. So what this company is doing with Andrew Toy, with the new hires, they've got the solid foundation, and now they're just going to grow that.
I'm not laughing at you either, Tarheel. I was laughing at MA's comments in the chat.
Yeah, no, I saw those too.
He said if Clove squeezes, Tarheel's got to get a haircut. He wants to know if that's a
Y'all
deal.
told you to call me.
All right, so
Traffel
Midorian and I were talking, and we were talking about growing beards, but I'm not going to cut my hair until we get over 100 at least. So this is short right now.
It's the playoffs for you, eh?
Yeah.
Another thing I want to add is that because I represent a group, I have around 100 person that basically we invest at the same moment in the same stock, to create a joint movement. And we have done that with the SPCE at 19, and we sold at from 38 to 52. And basically, we are targeting share that a company that are heavily shorted, that we see that have a future. So we prefer CLOV on AMC or GME because there is a solid, solid foundation behind. And we personally, I really like and have a lot of confidence in what Shamat is doing. This guy knows what he's doing. He's not a player,
That guy fucks for sure.
All right, so I'd like to say something real quick. I think it's hilarious you guys give me shit about, well, basically everything, because I love making fun of myself and my carpet, my hair. I just saw somebody call me DJ Pauly D.
I saw that one too.
Keep it up, man. I love it. So I'm about to
sure. It's all fun.
So I was single throughout COVID, and so I just let my hair go crazy. And I got a lot of comments on it when I was on these dating apps. They were like, "That's the best COVID hair I've seen." So I'm gonna post my dating profile picture on Twitter right now if anybody wants to go check it out. So that's how wild it's gonna get here soon.
All right, so moving through these topics, and I think this transitions well with exactly what Michael just brought up. The other interesting news that came out, I want to say it was early last week or maybe the week before, was the grocery benefit for members with Walmart online food delivery and that sort of thing. That it was just an announcement for Clove, and I just my take on it is, one, yeah, it's going to cost them a little bit more up front, but it's also going to help them expand, right? So it's going to help them be seen as a major player like Humana and like some of these other big names. So that's my short take. If anyone else wants to add on to that or explain a little bit more in depth of what it actually is, but at the end of the day, it's go ahead.
It's just that, and I read an article earlier. And I was talking to Degenerate offline, a couple things on this, but I believe it's anywhere from like $400 to $500 a year that they're going to be able to give to people. And I just threw this out to Degenerate. I just wanted his take on it. I said, what do you think about the fact that we just, Walmart and Clover Health decided not to co-brand anymore? The partnership's still there, but it's not a co-branding thing. And we basically came to the same conclusion, which was like, you don't really want to be a partner with Walmart forever and ever and ever because it kind of has a stigma about it. And, Walmart's going to put you under their thumb and bully you around if you're using their co-branding as well. So that's kind of the benefits. The grocery benefits.
Correct me if I'm
Obviously,
wrong. Was that partnership with Walmart not just basically access to more customers?
Say that again. I didn't hear the first part of your question. What was it?
Oh, sorry. I said if I'm not wrong, there was that partnership with Walmart just not access to more patients and more customers.
The original
Or was that
partnership.
something else? Sorry?
You mean the original partnership that they broke off? The co-branding one?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the grocery benefit.
Okay.
And the original one, was that
Right.
broken off or not? Because I didn't hear it was broken off.
No. Partnership is still on. It's just.
I'm so sorry. I just was reading something else there.
Yeah, it's just a co-branding thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly. It's still the partnership. It's just the branding itself.
It is. And I don't know if it has anything to do, but we've been, focused on New Jersey, lower income, and I don't know if they're trying to change their marketing or what they're doing right now,
I don't think it's so much that
they've
we've
obviously.
focused on.
What's that?
Sorry, I'm new to these things. Sometimes the sound is delayed, so I hear myself talking and then I hear you start.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I don't think it's so much that they're focused on New Jersey whatsoever. I think it's quite the opposite. I think they're started in New Jersey, so that's where their base is, and now they're expanding outwards. And even with all the new counties they got, somewhere in New Jersey, and there was one in the new state, but they had some in their other states they were in as well. But I think breaking out from New Jersey would be, at least I would think, the goal.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, their general counsel wrote an article saying specifically that they should be treated differently because they've done so much for people of color and lower income areas, and I 100% obviously agree with that. But now they're breaking out. That was their primary focus, because let's be honest, it was probably a lot easier to pick up customers with doctors in lower income areas who weren't getting reimbursed. And it's really hard, with lower income and people of color have always been, discriminated against and had a harder time with access to healthcare. So Clover Health,
that's exactly what they're going for. Yeah.
They went in there and did the hardest thing first, right? And then you take away the Walmart co-branding stigma, and then now you go into these suburban areas, and it's going to be a lot easier now to pick them up as well.
And just to touch in on that for 1 sec. So they're going after I think they call it the underserved people, right, in the rural communities, the people who maybe don't have access to the same healthcare as others. Obviously, you guys know I'm not as familiar with the health system there. But anyhow, it seems like the exact people that they are trying to help were people like Chamath growing up. You know what I mean? So for anyone that wants to say anything with respect to him, he was an immigrant. He was different. He was a minority. He was treated differently growing up here in Ottawa, and it's just, I don't know. It almost connects the dots and confirming for me that, you know what I mean. This is not the sinister thing that some people want you to believe. It just isn't. Right? How profitable they'll be and how much the stock will be is really the only thing to be determined. I mean, what they're doing, what their purpose is, and on top of that, with the Democrats in power, again, obviously I don't live in America, I live in Canada, but I would think that if somebody's trying to help, the Democrats are going to be supportive, as opposed to not over strictly dollar and screw the patients kind of thing.
No.
We'll see.
And again, I could be completely wrong. That's my opinion from up north.
All right, so I'm just gonna keep moving through because we're an hour in and we haven't even gotten to all the Q&A.
People said they need a UFC match between me and Emily.
but I do think this is great, and there's obviously a lot more to talk about too. So I think we're gonna continue to do these as well. But the next topic was the July 16th options expiry. That's this Friday. There has been a lot of hype about it. On the subreddit, and a lot of people kind of talking about it like maybe this was going to be the next gamma squeeze and that sort of thing. And so we were just talking about it before we went online and just pulling up the options chain. I got to be honest, I don't see it. And I'm not saying the price isn't going to go up this week. I'm just, when you look at the way the options chain has been loaded up in previous weeks or previous months, and there's been optimal times for gamma squeezes. Right now, this Friday, the $10 strike, there's more puts than calls. Then you go to the $11 strike, and there's more calls than puts. Then you go to the $12 strike, and there's more puts than calls. And so it's kind of all over the place until we could maybe get this stock upwards of $15. $18, then you could see that sort of kickoff, and that could happen, but it's not ripe for it right now. Now, as you look further out into August and into November, there is a lot of more options loaded up there, and those do all affect it, right? So just because the August chain is really loaded up doesn't mean that can't set up a gamma squeeze this week or next week or anything else. But there's nothing significant about the July 16th date. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Michael in particular was talking about August 15th or 16th in one of his. Remember when he was talking about the compression or the inflection there, and it's funny that you mentioned that, but the August one, because
I personally I like the expiration of the 20th of August. It's looked like a good moment to do something.
Yeah, we were kind of looking at. I mean, I'll just take a quick glance at it too. But when you get into August, and for me with a float the size of cloves, I think like any sort of time that you have, double digits in the thousands, so like 10,000 plus outweighing puts, that's when we really kind of get into that zone. And as you look at August 20th expiration, 10,000 differential at 9. What is this? 10,000, 11,000 differential at 10. Yeah.
I was going to say, Coach, let me ask you, with all this gamma talk and the puts and the calls, do you remember off the top of your head what the numbers were for that week that we went up to $28? I know that we were topped off on the option stain, but I don't remember what the numbers were for the calls and the puts and all that.
It was definitely, so if my memory, and I have it on video so I can go back and look, but it was definitely every strike out of the money. I think at the time we were trading somewhere around maybe $12, and I could be wrong, or $9. It was basically from like the $8 strike to the $15 strike. Every strike had a net differential of at least 10,000. So like right now, $9 is 10,000 differential. I'm looking at it's 7,000. It's 7,000. Then you go to the $10 strike. There's only a 1,000 differential. So the $11 strike, a 4,000 differential. We want to be to that point to where every strike price has at least 10,000 more calls than puts. To me, that kind of sets up that gamma squeeze, and I could be wrong too. That's just from what I've kind of seen. And that was the setup that we had back then. But these all play into effect, right? So right now, this August 20th chain is starting to get loaded up. All those contracts still have a delta assigned to them. So, they all still count. If this stock goes upwards of $15 this coming week, all these options contracts from here to January 2023 are all going to come into effect. So I'm not saying that nothing can happen. It's just the July 16th expiration doesn't really seem as big, and I think that Michael's absolutely right when he says August 20th looks like the bigger one right now, and it does. I mean, I'm looking at the 1250 strike has a 14,000 differential, so it's really starting to set up.
Don't you think that from now to the mid-August, they can drift us down? I don't want to scare everybody, but I'm getting prepared in my psychology to see maybe $7 mid of August. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's
I will buy more. It's good, but
well, pigs can fly out of my butthole too, but
I mean, I really, I don't know how low they can get us to go down and that sort of thing, but I do know that buying shares and holding them takes away their liquidity in order to to borrow them and to be able to short more. It's when we sell after they short, then they get to cover at a profit and then short again and continue it. So if you don't sell, or I'm gonna say this because I'm not a financial advisor, if I don't sell and I hold my shares, I'm doing my part to prevent them from being able to cover for a profit and short us again, and keep reloading. I guess that's the way I see it. And it could go lower, but I guess at the end of the day, my whole take on this is this company right now is trading at half or 3 times less than what it should be already. So it's a great investment, and people
Well, not
shorting the
only
stock
that,
down doesn't.
I want to say something on that because a lot of people are talking about valuation, and personally, what the comparison I'm making to give a value to Clove, I look at Sophie, you know, and for me, if you relate Sophie to Clove, Clove should be at $27.
well, okay, so yeah, I think SoFi is a pretty good comparison. I like us better just because we're recession proof, and I don't think SoFi is. If interest rates start to go,
Oh
if
yeah,
interest
I
rates
prefer
start to
Clove.
go
Yeah,
up, yeah, if interest rates start to go up tomorrow, SoFi is
yeah.
they're a loan originator and they're a loan servicer, and they're gonna lose out on a lot of business. I mean, I know they also
We
do.
are better. We are better.
Yeah, absolutely. But on that token, we've talked about valuation a lot of times on here, and yeah, just from a strict market cap standpoint compared to a couple other companies in the insurtech space, we should be anywhere from 25 to $30. But again, I've been watching videos this weekend and talking to Degenerate, and after talking to him and just watching these videos, I think valuation for a hyper growth company is just stupid. If you go back and look at 1995 on book value, how companies were trading on their compared to their PE ratio, you wouldn't have bought Home Depot, you wouldn't have bought Amazon, you wouldn't have bought a lot of these really fantastic. You wouldn't have bought Procter and Gamble. You would have bought Alcoa. Alcoa dumped. They were trading at like 10 times PE, and it would have been like one of the worst buys you could have bought. But my point is, we're in hyper growth mode. We're not a mature company yet, so valuation is we're a speculative company.
Absolutely, and even the valuations. I know you guys, Ma. I do keep laughing at your comments. It just, but even the valuation right now, it has nothing to do with the Clover Assistant and the technology side of it. And I think that's what, like you said, what makes this a hyper growth stock. And it just. I
He
don't
got
know.
me again.
If it goes to, I guess I missed part of the conversation here because I just came back down. I see the comments everyone's saying about you. I guess you guys mentioned $7 at one point. Or
I was just saying, like how low can this stock go right now as they're shorting it down? I mean, I don't think anyone has that
if
answer
this
for
stock
that.
goes
But
to $7, and I don't think it is, if this stock goes to $7, believe me, somebody's coming in and buying 10 million shares, 20 million shares.
and we saw big buys like that as we went down to 10 and to 9, and I think that the lower it goes, the more big money's going to come in and see exactly what this stock is, or they even know what it is, and they're going to see it as a ridiculously undervalued play and jump in on it. So all right, so some of the questions, I'm going to start getting to the questions. I know we already looked at what catalyst is it that we're waiting for, so let's see. Okay, here's the second question that's on this list. And for the mods, if you guys see any other questions and you want to copy and paste them into this Google Doc, I'll go straight off this list. But number 2 right now says,
Excuse me, Coach. Just to reassure people so they don't feel bad if we drift lower, I would like everybody to remember that 1 week before we touched 28, we were at $7 in June.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. No,
We
absolutely.
were at $9 2 days before. 2 days before.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so the second question on this list here was, as of today, how many millions of shares remain shorted but not yet covered? Does anyone want to take that?
The real number or the
yeah,
published number?
I mean, we kind of went over this a little bit throughout the video as we were talking about it, but
FTDs.
Tarheel threw out the FTD number. I know that the shares on loan right now is roughly around 54 million through Ortex. Then you also have iBorrowDesk. They don't actually give a number of shares on loan, so it's hard to really tell off of that. But I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I don't really know. What I do know is the cost to borrow is still ridiculously high.
Well, something I was going to say, with respect to that data too, something I've always thought about that I guess there's not really a way to find out exactly. When you see Ortex, right, 54 million on loan, and then you see on iBorrow that 3 million are available. how many are on loan for iBorrow? Because let's say if 3 million are available, then what's on loan? 7. So that would be what, 10 million shares just iBorrow. And I figure like there's more than 5 brokers out there giving.
We talk about this every time, and I say the same thing every time. The difference between shares on loan and estimated short interest is how many shares they have to play with at any point in time. Utilization could be 100%, but they usually have 10, 12 million shares. So even if it's 0 shares on loan, they still have 12 million shares to kick us in the teeth with.
Well, no. I think what I was getting at too is that there's got to be more shares on loan available, all that, than we're seeing on any screen.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So the way our iBorrow works is, for anyone watching, iBorrow only tracks interactive brokers. So when you see iBorrow's data, you're only looking at what interactive brokers has to lend out. So interactive brokers right now is showing that they have 3,400,000 shares for anyone to go borrow to short this stock. And they're charging 20% cost to borrow fee to do that. Then when you look at Ortex, I don't know exactly what lenders they're tracking, but I know they're tracking multiple lenders, and they're showing, 54 million shares on loan. I've seen that number. I could have swore I have. I got to go back and check because I know me and Tarheel have gone back and forth on it. I swear I've seen it at 61.
I believe you.
I would like to say something for the person who are not used to that. People must understand when they go on Reddit, on stock tweets, Yahoo conversation. When you see a basher who spent time writing, he's not there because he ate the company. He's there because he wants to buy lower. He wants to buy lower.
I don't pay attention to those. I don't pay attention to those trolls, and the only difference between
the whole thing
Emily
with that,
Evans
right, is
the only difference between Emily Evans, the Hindenburg turd, and those trolls is money.
I do agree. But then if in this case with Clove, if that was the case, then you'd have to argue that they want to get in because they believe in it, but they want to get at a better price. I think that that's not, you know what I mean? I don't think that that's the case with Clove. I think with Clove, you have to understand this is not talked about. I don't know if I mentioned in my videos or not, but there was a law changed. There was a law changed in December, in which that's why Chamath's first 2 SPACs, he has SPACs A to Z, right? His first 2, which were Space and Open Door, those 2 were underwritten by Credit Suisse. In December, if I'm not mistaken, on December 20th, a law was passed where now they don't have to get underwritten by these big banks, right? So social capital can underwrite them. Anybody can do them, but they don't have to go through them now. So now these last 24 SPACs are not going to be underwritten by any of these banks. And guess which bank does a lot of underwriting? Bank of America.
What does that have to? I like that, but what does that have to do with trolls on Yahoo?
Sorry. Is that where we were? Sorry, I got totally lost on.
No, so I think what Michael was saying was when you see the trolls and people in there, basically telling you to sell a stock and getting you to short a stock.
I thought he was talking about the Hindenburgs. Sorry, I thought he was talking about the Hindenburgs.
No. But you bring up a great point. You bring up a great point too, though, Al. But I think so. What Michael was saying was basically when you see these trolls out bashing a stock, what all they're trying to do is get the stock price to drop so that they can get in at a lower price.
I thought you were talking about the Hindenburgs writing these reports and this and that.
But to what Al's getting at, which I think is absolutely correct too, is is it Bank of America, and they're tied in with Humana, correct? Is that kind of where you were going with that?
No, they're not tied. I don't know if they're tied in with Humana, but there's connections between Bank of America and Clove, and then the same connection that connects those 2 also connects to Humana.
Yes.
Which would be Fishbeck, Kevin Fishbeck. I think in my last video I kept saying Fishenbeck, but yeah, it's Kevin Fishbeck. But he's the connection there. And then again, going back to that DD on Reddit, we have the connection between Emily Evans and Humana, and then obviously with Clove now. And was the person Tarheel, you'll know better than this, Tarheel, was the person that she tagged in that comment or whatever, was that the CEO of Humana or was that someone else? Because she tagged them, remember? She's like, hey, Kurt, should we get an agent?
That was the laugher guy.
Okay.
So
the go-between.
But yeah, I know that's
I like Michael, man. I'm glad Michael's here.
I have some catching up to do because I was out of town this weekend camping with absolutely 0 cell phone service, and I heard I missed some great tweets and videos and you know, a
Emily
lot of
Evans tried to
stuff.
follow Tarheel.
Yeah, that specifically
I found
Tarheel.
that
So I'm
very
gonna
odd.
go. I got some stuff
Very
to
odd.
check out.
He saw my
Um,
dating profile.
Well, no. But I find it odd because if she wanted to follow what you were saying, she could still do that without physically following you.
Yeah,
So she did
she's
that for a reason.
She's 100 years. She's 100 years old. She doesn't know how to work it.
No, I think I don't know. I think it might have been something dumber than that with respect to because she follows you, that means she has a connection to you now and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because she was
No,
following
she's trying to
those other
figure out
people.
she's trying to figure out what we're all doing. She and
But I think she
this
could.
other.
No, what I'm saying, she could do that without physically following you. So you know what I mean? I mean, you're saying she's 100, so she didn't know that.
all right.
Well, I mean,
So the
I
next
don't know why she's
question,
doing it.
and I don't know if anyone knows the answer on this or not, but the question is, how is the expansion into the new geographic markets going? So Clove, you know, basically almost doubled their footprint about 2 weeks ago, and announced that they were expanding into 101 new markets, bringing them up to I think about 209 counties now. Does anyone, you know, any updates on that? Does anyone know how the
Well, what I'll
company's
say
doing?
is that those 101 counties are still waiting CMS approval, which, if I'm not mistaken, or if I read correctly, it was September that was coming. With that said, you want to talk about other companies feeling threatened. You want hard, cold numbers. Clove is taking 50% of the market share in every single market they enter. Why would you not want to stop them from entering every other market? Like it's so how is it going to go there? I don't know, but how has it gone in all the other
Yeah,
expansions? They're taking 50% of all the markets they
well,
enter.
their slide deck said they're taking 25% market share in every county they're in.
25? I thought I read
Yeah.
50. Sorry.
No.
Okay. No, that's okay. But I thought
They're
definitely thought I read
41%
50.
cheaper. They're 41% cheaper than Medicare, 17% cheaper than nearest competitor. I have 200,000 members by the end of 2021. Yeah, 22% fewer hospital visits, 23% fewer ER visits per thousand. And keep in mind too, I mean, these
No, but
counties
that's
that they've
their
gone
numbers. How
in,
much of the new markets are they taking up when they enter them? That's what they're doing for
25%.
patients. How much of the market cap are there?
25% market share in every county per county. But keep in mind, I mean, this isn't like it's getting harder for them. They've gone into impoverished communities, and I read an article today from their past general counsel that put it out, and she says we see this firsthand at Clover as we have roughly twice the number of people of color as the average Medicare Advantage plan, and a substantially higher population of members who fall into the lower income brackets. And she just basically goes on to say it's a lot harder for them. The profit margins aren't as wide, and it's just an uphill battle. So it's only gonna get easier with more data and more counties, and when we go into the burbs, baby, basically.
All right, so the next question, and it.
Coach, are we making this too hard on you?
No, not at all, not at all. I keep
good.
getting caught up staring at the chat. All right, next question. Would breaking away from being a meme stock be beneficial? I'll take this one if anyone wants. I mean, for me, one, I don't think that we can really control that. I mean, it really has to do with you know, what's getting pumped on Wall Street Bets at the time and on Reddit, and what's the popular stock for me. So like, not being out of our control, I think it's better to, I don't want to say better, but I guess that meme stock status is going to draw more attention to the stock, right? And that's going to get more people looking at the stock, maybe visiting the Clove subreddit, which is what this is all about right now, is trying to get people in there and you know, building the community. And so if being a meme stock is going to get more people in, I think that's great. I think that's going to be you know, but the thing, I guess the bigger point is, we don't want people that are just in for a one-day pump and dump. We want people that are going to come into the Clove subreddit, you know, come onto these streams, find out about the potential that this company has, and become long-term holders. All right.
Just to add something, you know, when my group, we were all on SPCE, we talk with each other, and basically we switched to Clove because Clove has a business plan a lot more clear and a lot less risky. You know, SPCE, you have one flight will explode, the stock go to zero, and it's a lot of pressure. So, you know, Clove, it's a recession proof, and you really know where you are going. That's mean even if you don't have the gamma squeeze that at the level you expect, you are in a good, you are in good shape with CLOV.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even still, with all the Redditors and a lot of these new investors, is whether they think a squeeze is coming or not, they expect it to come tomorrow, or they expect it to come next week. And the reality is, I think I've mentioned this a few times, it's going to come on a day when you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, why is Clover at $17? It was at $11 yesterday. It's going to be a day like that where you don't know why. And then from there, you're going to be able to analyze what happened. But that's how it's going to happen in this case, because something's going to happen behind the scenes. This is going to slowly creep down or slowly creep up and then make a move. And like I said, we could stay around where we are now. I really believe that the move to 12, 13, 14, that's going to be a very quick move when it happens. Whether it's this week, whether it's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I think it's going to jump from 10 or 11 to 13, 14 bucks in a day. And then from there, we'll see where it goes. But we've had gaps that have happened, obviously, that we filled. And there's some that I believe there's a gap that needs to be filled from just under 11 or something like that. I don't have the chart in front of me right now, but it's going to be one of those things where even as Michael has mentioned and said that he thinks it's going to pop or something's going to happen right around August 15th or 16th, the reason you don't wait for that day is because you don't know that it's going to be that day. So if you believe in Clove and something's going to happen, then you get in and you just be ready. And yeah, it's like I said, all the elements are there. I think that all of us see that. And it's not so much a matter of if and when, but not so much a matter of if, but when. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you want to look at it, these hedge funds, they know that a year is a shit ton of time for some people to wait, right? And a year is nothing for them.
Well, we need to be able to make sure we all need to be in the mindset that we're gonna, at least me, I'm gonna hold this for months if I have to, easily, and then I'll take some
easily.
I'll take some off the table eventually.
You see how you're saying that? They know you're saying that, and they know there's some people being like, I'm not gonna wait months,
and I'll leave it back in. Coach, where you want to go from here?
All right.
But the problem now is that in my group we have a lot of young person. I'm 48, but there's a lot of guy who are 24, 23, and the problem is that that generation, they are used of the crypto movement, and they don't understand that stocks is something else.
Yeah, patience is key. I think that's really we just gotta know that you're in a very the potential here. It's a very undervalued company, and you're getting in at a steal. At where you can buy right now. And even if you have to wait months to triple your money, quadruple your money, maybe even if this thing really squeezes, go 20 times what you put into it. I mean, why wouldn't you wait?
Right now, they are saying that Sophie is a steal at 13 billion market cap. What about CLOV at 3.7?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so the next question. They short every day and cover daily shorts with no cost, even though overall short numbers stay the same. By doing that, they kill momentum and cause forced selling by the retail investors. How can this be avoided? So I think I'll break this question down. So
can you put
that cost to borrow? What's that?
Can you put the question up on the screen?
Yeah,
catch the beginning of that.
Yeah, let me copy it and I'll see if I'm gonna throw it in the chat. And then I'll put it up there. Can I throw it in the chat? Let me see.
So basically, how can we prevent against shorting?
I can't figure, without me retyping it, I can't figure out how to get in the chat
right
now.
Can you just repeat one more time?
But basically, I guess I'll break this down. It basically looks like,
tired.
The cost to borrow is...
I'm smiling because I see in the comments 4 big apes.
So the cost to borrow, let's say the cost to borrow is 200% or 20% like it is now or whatever. If they borrow those shares and then short it down and return them same day, they're saying that they're able to short daily with no cost, and by doing that they kill our momentum. And basically causing retail, they're forcing retail to sell, and is there a way this can be avoided? That's the way I understand the question.
Not only that, but naked short shorts do not have a cost to borrow, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, obviously.
And that hurts too. And a lot of that is market makers going in there and providing supply when their liquidity runs out. But as far as killing our momentum, I mean, again, I always point to this video. It's called Confessions of a Market Maker, where they interviewed this guy working the OTC markets in the late 90s. And he was the guy building the candles. He wasn't trading the candles, he was building them. And he basically said that if the supply is yanked, then the market makers they can short till they're blue in the face. There's nothing that they can do. If they run out of liquidity and there's no supply, then the price goes up and they're illiquid and they start having problems. So my answer is I'm going to buy and I'm going to hold.
And even still, even when it comes to the naked shorting and this and that, I see this more with the GME guys when they're talking about it. Oh, this is why we can get to $10 million a share, because there's so many shares shorted than there are available that if they just don't sell, and human nature is going to take over and people are going to start. Who that bought GME for 20, 40, 60, $100 isn't going to sell it if it gets to $2,000. You know what I mean? Or even before that. And on top of that, they are just going to, the hedge funds and the short sellers are just going to find a way to kick it down the road until people give up. Like if they have to, this is the sad truth with some of these, is that if they have to wait it out years, I'd say probably 70%, if not more, of the people holding aren't going to wait 5-10 years. They're going to move on with they're going to want to buy a house.
These are sadistic pricks, and they're going to continue. They feel as strongly about the short position as we feel about the long position. Do you know how long it took them to cover the Lehman Brothers naked shorts? It took them like 11 years to actually cover.
I didn't know that figure. I didn't know that figure.
All these in 2008. That's why nobody touched that. A lot of these financial institutions, a lot of these hedge funds were bailed out, but nobody touched Lehman Brothers because they had such terrible books. They had so many naked shorts out there. So a lot of these guys, I mean, a lot of this
Lehman was one of the one that was, I believe, leveraged almost 30-1.
Well, that's
I don't know if anybody here has seen the movie Margin Call, but that one is an inside look at Lehman Brothers leading up to what happened. And that's when
these guys they're doubling down, they're tripling down. They want to take every stock that they short to zero, and because
you know what the sad part is?
They won't have to buy to cover. They won't have to return the shares.
The very sad part is, no, I was going to say the very sad part is these guys are doing this. They're doing exactly what you're saying, knowing that at the end of the day, they are still going to get paid. So they can make these decisions. They are not gambling with their own money.
Yeah,
right. Ken Griffin, Citadel could go face up and whatever and be completely done. You think he's not still getting his whatever $1 billion, $500 million? Like so he can do whatever he wants right now. That's just obviously one on a larger scale, but that's the reality. So when people are talking about, we want to bankrupt, I think I talked about this with Tarheel, but people were talking about, we're going to bankrupt, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah, but that's because that's because Citadel is a market maker. It's different for hedge funds.
No, but they're not the only hedge fund that's a market maker, though.
Right.
And Citadel has $500 billion.
But Citadel is in their own league, is what I'm saying.
So
Tarheel, I have a question from what you are saying right now. But basically, we see every day that there is some short covering on this stock and another stock. If what you say is true, why we have this short covering if they don't need to cover? Why suddenly we have that?
What's going to happen eventually the costs, and that's what matters about how quickly it can get there, or how long they'll wait, or how long we'll wait. When you're shorting a stock, eventually, at some point, the costs are going to overweigh the benefits. At some point, right? When you're paying enough that shorting it down to zero is not going to put you in the green, that's a turning point, right? So that's when you get into obviously how many naked shorts and this and that, but that could be a point where what happened, for example, just for an example, right, with Melvin Capital and GME, if we get to that point where some funds are going to get liquidated and not all of them, that alone could be enough to send it to 70 or 80 or 90 or whatever before it settles down. And it's,
I don't know, there's so many variables. I don't have the answer to that question. All I know from the macro perspective is zoom out a little bit and take a look at the estimated short interest. I mean, it's through the roof. So for some reason, they continue to short, and I guess that's where I just kind of look at it and say, well, they continue to do it. So that's. overriding, I guess. I don't know.
So just to circle back to this question, I think the main answer, the summary of this is what can we do to avoid this? And I think it's just hold. The first part of the
Yep.
question says, it causes forced selling by retail investors. Well, no one's forcing retail investors to sell. I think what's
Pressure
happening
on
is,
margin.
they're
Great
shorting
point.
it down
Great
to
point.
get you to sell. But if you, one, don't trade on margin,
Yeah.
so
And
that no one's forcing you to sell, and then you hold the
stop
stock.
losses.
And
Stop losses.
if everyone's holding the stock, remove your stop losses, don't trade on margin. Now they're going to short it down, and when they buy it back, volume's going to be lower, and that stock's going to go higher than it was when they first shorted it. But what's happening
Right.
right now is they're shorting it, hitting stop losses, driving the
But
price
just
down, and able to
listen,
buy them back cheaper.
just remember too, the market makers don't care where the stock is. It could be at 10 or a million. They don't care as long as the supply is there. So the fact that it's gotten shorted down just means they were going into illiquid territory around whatever, $15, right? If we go up to $40 and there's a ton of supply, then we'll chill out around 35, $40. It's irrelevant what the number is for them. And the market makers are the one flooding it with supply. That's my thought.
That's their job, right? Yeah.
Tarheel, do you think they continue to short because they see that even at $9, there is sellers who are piling up on level 2?
I think
Do
they
you
need
think
some.
they short because of that?
Well, I think they need some. They need supply. They ran out of supply. That's it. And yeah, so we're always taught when we see triple bottoms or whatever to come into a stock, right? That's where a bunch of buyers come in. Well, yeah, they absolutely see that on the L2s. And what are we taught to do as retail? We're taught to put tight spreads on when we see a double bottom or a triple bottom, especially like an ascending double bottom or something. So they can see our stops on there, and they just what do? They bore us to death and they consolidate us for 2 weeks, and then they either margin us out or they pump it and they ladder us and hit our stop losses. So it's just supply. That's it.
And that's honestly that's the give and take with this, right? Is that you want all this retail pressure and all this retail support, but unfortunately, a big part of the retail is the one that's not willing to wait all this time. You know what I mean? It's almost finding that balance there.
Hey,
But
Tarheel,
retail,
I'm gonna ask you to
yeah,
do me a favor real quick. You have the Google Doc open, right?
I do.
Okay. Do you want to cover question 6 and maybe 7? I gotta go. I'm gonna go grab something to drink real quick. I'm dying
Yeah,
of
go
thirst.
ahead.
I'm just gonna go grab some water and come back. So
All
if you
right.
want to
Yeah,
cover
I'll
question
take over
6.
hosting duties for a second. All right. Either one of you guys can
I got
jump
it.
in.
I got it in front of me too, just in case.
I'll read it off. Will Clover apply to SEC for market manipulations? What do you guys think?
I don't know what that means. Like what? Complain to them or?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the stock is being manipulated with naked short selling, and look, laws are there. They're sometimes allegedly
Well, no.
been
If you pull
broken.
up the SEC definition of market manipulation, it's hilarious because Clover fits it like a T. But I don't understand. Is that
Well,
what does this question mean?
I read an SEC document. I mean, the first line of it starts out that manipulation's been going on since the early 1800s, and it's nothing new, right? I mean, literally, it says that. I read it to
Yeah.
read it to one of my friends. I was like, "Let me show you. There is manipulation." She didn't believe me, but no, I think the question is just saying we all know what's going on, right? The company knows it's going on. I'm assuming they care. So, do they care enough to go to the SEC and complain? What do you guys think?
I think that the manipulation is clear. I think B, and that's with the charts, that's with the level 2s, that's with the price movements. I think B, Clover knows that, and that is in part why they put that last short squeeze factor into their perspective, right? In perspective, sorry, because they're aware of that. And I just think it's one of those things where it's almost, I know it seems too easy like that, but it's almost like we're just making their bed for them. You know what I mean? They just got to lay in it.
These laws have been broken since the beginning of time, and no, I don't think the company is going to go file a complaint with the SEC just for the same reason. I don't believe GameStop's going to issue an NFT. I think maybe, but I just don't see it happening. The SEC when Overstock went and did that, they came in and they said nope. we're not going to let you do that because that's market manipulation. But where are they? You know, the Overstock CEO had his name was Byrne, I think was his last name. He had a great comment. He said, you know, the SEC always sticks up for the criminals, you know, but not the guys actually being manipulated. So,
but it's not even about that's not about standing up for them, because even when they get in trouble, it's so negligible that it's like I've said before. These fines are literally the cost of doing business. They're just a noted, accounted for expense.
Well, exactly. But when Overstock comes out and the CEO's pissed off and he hates short sellers and he has a brilliant idea to create an NFT token, and what happened? The SEC came out and said, nope, not going to happen. So you know they pick their opportune times to come out and decide where they're going to throw their weight around.
What weight?
I have a question. Don't you think that the short seller, knowing that there is 21 million share maybe available, are waiting for that all these people to dump their share?
Oh, like seeing an increase in the float, and they're thinking that once these shares become available, they'll be able to cover easier. I could see that, but I guess my speculation, and we kind of talked about it earlier, was that, you know, like a company like Green Oaks, yeah, they converted them over, but they're not going to sell them until they see a little bit of a squeeze. You know, they want to get a little bit more profit out of it. So they converted the shares over, but they haven't put anything on the market for sale yet. At least that's the speculation.
So, well, no, they definitely haven't. They definitely haven't, or we would have had the S4. Yeah. Unless it happened on Friday, which why would they do that for $9 when they could have done it for 11 and change on Tuesday? And that's assuming that if on Tuesday the 21 million that they distributed got sold, they would know that. So why would they do that? You know what I mean? Like, why would they put themselves in a position to sell for much lower if they knew that was going to happen? And that's why my still speculation is that none of those 21, unless it's a very negligible amount, that none of those 21 million were sold. And I think on Tuesday, that dump, we saw it open, reflects back to, I think WSGP Degenerate's the one that brought it up first, but that 13 million shares that was bought on Thursday or Friday the week prior. And they were on record on the shares on loan on Ortex, but they hadn't been used yet. And that's what we knew. So I think those numbers are way too close together to be ignored. Because I think it was 11 or 13 million that was dumped on Monday morning or Tuesday morning. Sorry.
All right. So the next question on here, I guess this will apply for everybody, but I want to know who actually put this question in there. So it's okay. So you guys love some White Claws, and I know they're talking about me and Tarheel, but it says, yeah. What's your favorite drinks to relax to? What's your favorite spirits to relax to? I'm gonna start with Al. What are you drinking right now, Al? What do you got?
I've been drinking this whole time. My favorite drink is by far whiskey, but since we're on air today, I kept it light. So we had an IPA to start, Life in the Clouds, and now we're just sitting on a lager, Carling 5.5%. So I definitely kept it light. That was the break I took. I went to get a beer.
All right. What about you, Michael?
Well, I have a kind of can you see it?
Colin Straw.
Is that that's an energy drink?
That's that Belgian fire.
It's a kind of a copy of Red Bull, I think.
Okay.
Oh, where's the vodka?
No, I don't drink personally. You know, I'm already drunk with Cathy Evans and all this stuff.
All right, and then I know so Tarheel, besides White Claw, what are you into?
Oh man, whiskey neat, some good whiskey like Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Blanton's, something.
Attaboy.
All right, so my deal, I don't know. I think I might have mentioned it on the last one, but I can't drink beer anymore. Beer used to be my drink of choice, but I can't do it anymore, and that's why I switched to the seltzers. But I don't discriminate. I'll drink White Claw, Truly. You know, if it's in a can and it's cold, it's good for me. But that's all I do now because I can't. Everything else messes me up health wise. You know. All right, someone said you guys are definitely going to need Clover help.
I forget to say, I have a kennel of dog, and I renamed the kennel Clover Bully.
What's the next question? Let's get back to Clover here.
All right. So next question.
Coach, what you got?
No, the answer is no. The answer is no on this one. Oh, sorry, we didn't read it out yet.
All right. So next question we already answered. That was the one about the hidden guru. Number 9. Does anyone of you know the SEC inquiry, or basically what's going on with the SEC inquiry? Does anyone know what's going on with that?
Not yet,
Well,
unfortunately.
So,
or do you?
just to shed the little that we do know, it appears to me there was some turmoil over supposedly they were handing out $5 gift cards to pick up customers, and the company actually came out with a rebuttal that said no, these were actually we do not, like, it was a very like legal statement. They said we do not support practice of handing out money to pick up customers. We don't need to do that. That's so dumb. And those were actually like little thank you cards, like, hey, have a great day, buddy, and like morale booster cards. But what happened, it almost seems like there was like a disgruntled employee that Hindenburg got a hold of and interviewed. And so if you don't know, the Department of Justice in the United States does not need court approval to issue what's called a civil investigative demand. It's called a CID. And it's not an official subpoena or an official investigation. They literally can just up and decide to do it for no reason or any reason. So that's exactly what's happened. These things take forever to get through, and it might be a while.
Now, with that $5 gift card,
don't you say one day it may take 6 to 9 months? I think you say that in one on your video. 6 to 9 months.
I was probably drinking, but I don't think anybody really knows the time frame. I was probably just spitballing, saying, "Hey, this could take 6 months. It could take 9 months. Could take a week."
With those $5 gift cards, what's the allegation that they were giving out $5 gift cards to people to try to get them to switch over to Clover or sign up with Clover?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was either to use Clover, like, here's $5 to use Clover Assistant, or the bottom line is it was $5.
The doctors are the ones who would use Clover Assistant, so you're not going to bribe them with $5. And my following point to that is, if it was for the prospective patients, then are you really gonna? I don't know. I don't live in America, but are you really gonna switch your whole insurance policy or program over for $5? Because that doesn't seem like it at all. It almost seems like an incentive to just check it out and then make your own decision. In which case, if they're serving underserved communities, then good for them.
It did not make sense on a lot of different levels. But
I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with that particular $5 gift card accusation. That seems, whether it can't be for the doctors because you're not bribing any doctor with $5, and if it's for the patients, that's just to try something or to look at something and if they're going into underserved communities and they're handing out $5 that they can maybe, help with dinner that night or whatever it is, because that's obviously the people they're trying to help. And on top of that, hey, check us out, see what you think. Then I don't know. That almost seems like a double whammy. A, you can be completely democratic about it and make your own decision.
All right, do you want me to read it off? I have it pulled up. A former employee explained that Clover handed out gift cards to doctors and nurses to generate patient leads, a practice prohibited by CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. These gift cards were justified as being everything but recruitment, including morale, a thank you, motivation, and friendship. How do you respond? Clover does not provide gift cards to doctors and nurses to generate patient leads. Last sentence is, Clover prides
Sorry, that's the $5 gift card. They're saying they're trying to give doctors who make $500,000 a year or 6 figures at least. That's their argument. They're trying to give them $5. That can't be right.
That
can't be right. It sounds like some bullshit that would be thrown out there because people could look at it without looking into it and be like, "What?"
The last thing they say is, Clover prides itself on a strong culture of compliance. If we were to discover any violation of CMS regulations or any applicable law or regulation, our compliance department would take decisive and strong corrective action.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So
I don't know. Nobody's answering there. Am I completely way off base there? That bribing a doctor with $5?
No, I agree with you.
Like the way to go.
Well, maybe it was
it could see now when you're saying that they're bribing doctors, people might miss that $5, and now you suddenly have a story, right?
Right, but You know, it's like the game of telephone. So you tell one people one thing, and by the time you tell the 12th person, it gets distorted. So maybe that was they were giving it to receptionists or nurses or nurse practitioners or whoever, you know, and they got translated into giving doctors and nurses. Like we just don't know. It seems really like nothing.
Sorry,
That's
MA
like,
is
I don't
cracking
know.
me up right now in the chat.
I know, man.
All right, so the next question was, what do you think the hedge fund price target is? I mean, I'll just say probably zero. I mean, I think that's what they're trying to drop the stock to. But anybody want to weigh in
See,
on
but
that?
you know what? When I think about that, sorry to interrupt there, but I've thought about that, how they're trying to drive this to zero. They're trying to say it's sliding to zero. There's going to be a catalyst or a point in time when some of these short sellers, like it's just, I know it's you like, oh, it has common sense, so you would think so, but no, it's not because they're hedge funds. But there's got to be a point when some of them are like, okay, this thing is going to actually start growing, and we got to get the fuck out of here. Like,
Do you guys know?
there's a point
Do
in
you
time
guys
or
know
a
who
catalyst where
Rich?
they have to
Do
say,
you know who Rich Greenfield is?
Rich Greenfield.
Does anybody know who Rich Greenfield is? You googling him now? He's that prick
I will.
analyst.
I was gonna say I will in 1 sec.
Okay, so he's that prick analyst that put AMC's valuation at 1 penny just because he was being a dickhead. And obviously, yeah, maybe it
Oh,
was.
he looks like a piece of shit. I'm just looking at him now.
But yeah, his whole job obviously is just to trash companies and, you know, work for the hedge funds and the short sellers. And that's the same thing, allegedly, that Emily Evans is doing. That's how she makes her nut, and that Hindenburg idiot. And it's never going to stop because they just take the extreme opposite side just to put FUD out there. They're just.
Well, I'm just throwing this out here. If you're Humana, what would you rather do? Would you rather pay somebody or pay certain people or whatever 10, 20, 30, 50 million dollars, which is obviously a large sum to somebody like Emily Evans? Would you rather pay amounts like this? And this is all hypothetical, but would you rather pay amounts like that to help something go away, or maybe have Clover come in and take $10 billion of revenue off your books?
Well, here's the thing, man. Listen, this strategy used to work before January 1st, 2021. They don't know how to deal with us. The fact that we're on a call right now with 163 people on it, we've changed the game, and they don't know how to keep up. So now it's exposed. We can look at Emily Evans and be like, this asshole, you know, like, we're not going to fall for your tricks. So
I don't follow her, but I don't follow her, but I've heard she's deleted.
That's why Discord, Twitter, Reddit, what we're doing now, that's why it's so important. I mean, they don't know what to do with us. They have no idea.
I think that's right on the money too. It's a little bit different now. I mean, just this ever since January, it seems like the game has changed, and it'll probably change again. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna figure out ways. I mean, but to try to win, but they're also maybe regulation changing stuff. But I think right now, just like Michael's, the name of his channel, Target Short Sellers, and that's what it is, right? I mean,
I love it so much.
It's short busting, and there's there's definitely a market there for it.
And for those that for the other side of that, people are like, oh, the short sellers aren't dumb? You know what I mean? Like, obviously they're doing this for a reason. They wouldn't. The reality is that they're going to push this until they can't. So for those of you thinking, oh, they know more or they're doing this, that, they're doing everything they can. And we have enough people, and there's a small enough float right now that they can do what they're doing, but not forever. And for everyone that thinks they can, this has been happening for 5 months. Like we were talking about, they can hold this for a year, 5 years. It's been happening for 5 months. If in 6 months, okay, this blows up to $300, okay, Clover blows up to $300, and a bunch of people got out in that meantime, the people staying at the end are going to be like, that was only a year. Like, you know what I mean? It's all perspective, and they know that, and yeah, I don't know. Like I said, within a year, I can't see Clove being under $30 in a year, or sorry, 20 to 30, 22 to 30. I think was the price I gave based on my numbers, and that's not even for sticking around instead of the squeeze. That's just where. By then, they're going to have CMS approval. They're going to have more expansions announced. They'll probably have more hires. They'll probably have a lot more positive reception back. They're going to have more of the numbers and the and the way that they're doing everything is going in the expansion that they just announced within a year. Like, there's so much things. The only way you can think this is going to zero is if you think they're hiring people for nothing, they're expanding for nothing. All these companies are signing agreements and partnerships with them for nothing. They have 130,000 patients under care. through all that or whatever, you have to think that all of that is for nothing to think this is going to zero. And everything that you can look at or see points in the exact opposite of that. And that's why in my last video I said trust your gut. Like when things are the way they are, it might take longer than you want, and it might be a different path there than you want. But the end game here and everything, all the facts, I guess, the facts are the facts, and the short sellers, nobody that this or that, no Emily Evans can take away from that. How are they going to fudge the numbers or screw the numbers when Clove suddenly has 250,000 patients under care and then 300,000, whether it's in a year or two? How are they going to say, oh, like, you know what I mean? It's the growth is exponential.
The next, Al, to answer that question, if that wasn't rhetorical, they're going to attack free cash flow is what they're going to attack. But like Degenerate and I were saying, you know, these hyper growth companies are expected to have a negative free cash flow for a number of years. If you take a look at Degenerate had better numbers than I did, but if you take a look at Amazon's early days, for like a decade, they were free cash flow negative. So,
and on top of that, they have enough cash to, I believe, keep their operations going for a minimum of 3 years. So if you're telling me in 3 years they're not going to be start cash flow positive, I don't buy that at all.
And
that's just
I see. Excuse me. I see an interview of Shamat who say that they will be generate positive earnings in the first quarter of 2023. That's what he say.
Sounds about right. Yeah, because MCR will go down to 80%. The DCE channel.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
And they'll be making 40% gross profit margin on DCE, and yeah, that makes
and you know what? Now that hearing you guys talk and seeing all the perspectives, it's pretty clear that they're not trying to kill Clove forever. They're trying to kill Clove before it really gets going. And if they can do that, they've completed their goal. Yeah, they completed their goal if they can do that.
I think that's what it's all about.
They're trying to get it before it gets going.
Because even just, as Michael brought up earlier, the two new hires that Clove has, just had, and some of the more recent ones that they've done in the past months, this company's trying to grow and they're trying to expand rapidly is what I see. And this is just on the healthcare side, not the AI side. Like, I think, within 6 months or a year, we're going to see much larger numbers, probably double, triple. This is just my own speculation of managed lives. And as they continue to grow and expand and grow and expand and start reaching out into newer markets, I think you're right. They're trying to kill it before it gets started, before it can hit that point. Dude,
I'll be honest. In my opinion, we're almost there.
I love this comment in the chat. Yashwanith Shinmani says Nikola didn't even go to zero after all that crap that happened to them.
Yeah.
Love that comment.
Good point.
All right, so
one of you have that information. Since when? What is his name? Chelsea Clinton is in the board of director. Do you have the date, precise date?
For what?
At which moment she became a director with 700,000 shares?
Yeah, I think she was given some shares in 2018. I can't remember when she was on as a non-employee director, but let me see if I have it in my notes. It was definitely like 2018-ish that she was given some shares. Yeah, 20%. She had 20% vesting starting January 31st, 2018 of 499,000 options to buy at $1.26, Class B shares.
Okay.
Clark just put a
for me the fact that Chelsea Clinton is on board, it's an important factor to see some support of the Biden administration, even if I don't really like it. But we talk about money, not politics. I think that will help.
Yeah. Absolutely. Clark brought up an interesting point too that I think kind of piggybacks off of what Al was saying. I'll just put it up here. He says, I think Humana and the others are trying to play catch up. So it's not so much like you said that they're trying to kill the company before it gets started. That's another way of looking at it too, is that they're trying to get these other major players. They don't want to see Clove, not just get up to their level, but surpass them. And so this is a way of trying to suppress the company before it gets
Well,
started and allow them time to get there.
Yeah, well, it's called
absolutely. And with that
optionality.
in mind, you got to remember, right? These companies that got 400 million market cap, Clove. Okay, this is where perspective comes into the picture. Clove could go in and take, let's say, $10 billion of market cap, with a B, $10 billion of market cap. Clove has now grown 300% while basically not causing much of a dent in them. So it's huge for Clove. And then from Clove, if that goes 3 times again, right, it doesn't take a lot of growth once you're growing exponentially to take over. So even in the beginning, little chunks are going to be huge for Clove, even though they're not noticeable on a grand scale. And
Well,
I think that's the way it has to go
209
until
counties is a hell of a start. And like you said earlier, Al, 25% market share. I mean, we're off to a good start. We have a good fundamental
tiny
base.
company.
And
Incredible.
the key word in all this is optionality. It's what we can do that the bigger players, Centene, Humana, and United Healthcare can't do. They can't go and retrofit their entire business model and go, because the only thing they have with their electronic health records is for billing. They can't go and create Clover Assistant on a small level and grow it organically like we're doing. We're a disruptor. The end. And we're reimbursing twice the average within 4 days. They're not going to pay more to these doctors. They built their whole business model on their
They
reimbursement
can't.
rates.
If they did with the
Exactly.
amount of patients they have, they'd go broke in a year.
Yeah, well, they have investors to answer to, and if they have to take that off their books and say, oh yeah, we had to keep up and pay doctors twice. I mean, think about what that's going to do to their books. They've already built out their entire business model with all their employees, their payroll, everything, their brick and mortar, everything is built upon their. That's why I'm saying it's hard for them to go back and retrofit. It's called optionality. We have it, they don't.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. I see we're here. We're just over 2 hours. I do got to get going, get some stuff prepped for tomorrow. So you guys stay on as long as you want. It was awesome. I'm happy we're going to be doing this every week. I just noticed it was over 2 hours. I was like, yeah, I got to get going.
Al, before you sign off, here's what I want to do, because I just put that message in the Discord too. I was going to have everybody maybe any sort of closing thoughts. So we'll start with you. If there's anything you want to say about Clove, about this, or even again, promoting your channel. Everybody on here right now has a YouTube channel too, just for anyone who's unaware, and the links to everybody's channels and their Twitter handles and all that stuff is in the description, so for everyone to check out. But yeah, that's basically where I was going to go next, was closing thoughts. So I'll let you start.
Well, me, I can keep it real. I can pretty much sum it up and keep it real simple. I don't know where it's going to be in the next week or two, but I know where this is heading, and I can see where this ends. And I'm not going to put a number on it, 50, 100, 200, but I can see where this ends, and it's not downwards. Like, it's just not. If there's one thing I think that's good, that we're all older here, and with experience, and again, I've mentioned this in the past, is that when businesses are growing like Clover are, and you can feel the competitors feel threatened, you're onto something. And when you can feel it, when the numbers don't add up, or they do add up, depending how you're looking at them, it's just, I don't know how to put it other than it is what it is. And you got to trust your gut, right? And you got 4 guys here, just on here, who all 4 of us look at this a little bit differently, and all 4 of us come to the same conclusion. How is that? Do you know what I mean?
All right. Michael, you want to go next? Thank you for joining today too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as you know, I'm in Belgium, so over here it's 3 a.m. So that's why I have the Hape to help me to stay up. No, basically what I want to say is that I have the YouTube channel Target Short Seller. I put video from time to time, sometime in French, sometimes in English, and basically the people must understand that they need to forget about the price, because if we go to $40, $50, it's not really a big deal if you buy at $10, $11, or $9. It's very a detail. But people at the reverse, they should be looking at the chart and looking at the number of the short amount and all that, and take advantage. I know it's not easy for everybody, but take advantage of a low price to average down, and certainly not to sell for loss, and then do the game. Because now, like I write somewhere, we are in the middle of a war. It's more than investing here. It's really force these people to let a good company like Clover to grow and to have a real value. So actually, you need to buy not only because you will do a lot of money, but because we should not collaborate with these people by selling for a loss. We should average down and take advantage of the low price. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Tarheel?
Yeah, well, I won't reiterate what you guys just said, but I'm just here because I'll take any chance I can have to bust up Al a little bit. That's always fun. So, but no, I'm just kidding. You guys are great, and I just really want to thank everybody that put this together. The mods continuing to do their work, and you guys in the chat. Ma says to shout him out, so thanks for busting me up, Ma, all night. I really appreciate it. You guys, if you're not in the chat, responding and making fun of us, then it's less fun for us. So thanks for doing that.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta chirp us.
Yep.
We might chirp back, but you gotta chirp us.
All right.
Oh yeah, I forget to say something. In Facebook, you have a group named CLOV Stockholders. There is around 700 people. It should be great if some people put some DD over there because it's pretty low profile when you look at the comments. It's not like on Reddit. And don't forget to maybe become a member to drop some of your video over there.
Yeah, I'll go check that out. I didn't even know about that, but absolutely. So the only thing you guys pretty much covered a lot of it. The only thing I'll say is I do think that Clover is a great investment, regardless of a squeeze. I do think this is gonna squeeze, but regardless of a squeeze, this is a great investment. I want to thank everybody for coming in. Again, if you haven't already, go subscribe to Tarheel, go subscribe to Al, and go subscribe to Michael's channels on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter. And I know we talked about it a lot on the last roundtable, about the importance of building community. And, so subscribing to all these guys, liking their videos, helping to get them put out there. Even if you don't like to go in there and make, posts on social media, go retweet these other posts because that's how we're going to gain exposure for the subreddit. That's how we're going to build on Clove shareholders, all that kind of stuff. Also, Tarheel announced earlier that there's an official Clove Discord, put on by the mods of the subreddit. That link should also be in the description of this video as well. So, again, thank you everybody for joining, and also every Monday. So I stream every day from 6 to 8. Just talking stocks. And every Monday, Tarheel joins me. So if you enjoyed tonight, you want to see some more of us.
6 to 8, Pacific or Eastern? Pacific or Eastern?
Pacific. I only talk on West Coast time. I don't know why. I say so.
That's
Yeah,
after
it's
market.
basically a half hour before the market opens. We get on there and but every Monday, Tarheel joins in with me. So. And MA, thank you for sticking around to hear my closing thoughts. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hosting, Coach. We appreciate you.
Cheers, guys.
All right, guys. Here, I'll cheers with my water. I had a long weekend.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.